Okay, so Alex, thanks very much for joining us today. Before we start and you start telling us about the conference that you went to, just tell us a very little bit about your background. So what's the business you're in? What's the industry that you're part of?
Sure. Great to be here. My name is Alex Afshar. We are from Melbourne, Australia, down under. I'm a managing director of the company called Dolanto. We are infrastructure advisory firm, and we are mainly working with the public and social infrastructures. Yep. We have recently lots of development at the moment using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and broad range of other capability to help create efficiency, save time, reduce risk. In Australia, we have a conference called AMPIC, which is stand for Asset Management Council Conference, and every year is organized in different states. So given that we are an advisory practice, it is important for us to get visibility.
Yeah.
So hence we go to the conference, and we was thinking about how we can actually showcase our capability and capacity. We have 2 papers in the conference, and also we had a booth.
Yes.
And given this was our first experience that we go to the conference and having a booth for ourselves, there was lots of unknown and challenges.
And just to paint a picture for us, Alex, so you've got 2 people with 1 booth. So the booth is about what, the size of a very small room, and people just come walking by.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So that's so we've all, well, many of us have been in those kind of situations. Okay, and we just walk on by. And so at that conference, so your concern is how do we stand out? It's our first time. How do we stand out? What kind of things does everyone else do? So you're part of a kind of an environment full of other people trying to do the same thing, trying to get attention. So what kind of things and what's typical? What were you surrounded by at this conference?
But over the years, I've been to the different type of conferences, and every conference you go, there is a range of things that you're always gonna see. Yep. There's lots of different big booths that they have quite fancy, and mainly a lot of people who spend a lot of money designing lots of marketing materials to be able to promote the capability capacity.
Yep.
Given we are much smaller firms, I think we had lots of constraint financially. And the key value proposition was we need to be able to tell a story of who we are. Yep. So, and because we learned from the workshop tactics and also storytelling tactics, both of these packs, that the storytelling was quite important.
Yep.
So we recognize that what's our story? Yep. How we can actually show that who we are and what's our differences. You need to know that inside these conferences, there's lots of big players, international, national players, and there's range of also a mid-size, small-size player. And the real estate that you have is just an environment which is 3 meters by 2 meters, so it's fairly a small size.
So it's about the size of the room you're in now, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. This is pretty much the central office, yeah. So you have a small facility, and you need to think about, okay, how can I actually make a difference?
Yes.
And normally every conference you go, the conference organizers have a range of different brochures, marketing materials, a lot of items, mugs, pens, papers. The list can actually go on. And if you are a little bit more can actually afford and your budget allowed, you might be provide some equipment in terms of related to the technologies. Yep.
Yes.
That actually make the environment quite entertaining.
Yeah. So often people use TV screens. They've got video playing.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. They're giving away headphones or memory sticks or all
Absolutely,
sorts of
yes.
all of which costs money.
Absolutely.
To make. Yeah. And also it requires a good designer to make it look good. But I guess the problem is that, and anyone who's been to one of these conferences knows, okay, you walk past the first one, you notice it. You walk past the second one, by the time you're on the 5th or 6th booth, you just don't pay attention anymore because they're not all the same, but they're all doing the same thing. Okay.
I think from the other perspective is, if you look into the art of making difference, you need to be able to see that you have something as a value add.
Yep.
And thinking about value add is hard because we're all in our silos. Yep.
Yep.
We never think from the world or the business that we are in from external perspective. Yep.
Yeah.
Because everyone producing the brochures, the marketing widget materials, you're thinking that if I want to go to the conference, I need to follow exactly the same path. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
So we had a little bit brainstorming session with our team and think about, okay, what we could do in here.
Mm.
And I, as I said earlier, I've been using this deck a lot over the 2 years we set up this business.
Mm.
So every time we try to write a proposals, we have a presentation, we think about what's our story in here. Yep.
Yes.
And given that our audience is executives and quite senior people, you can, I think, maybe you cannot go in front of an executive and tell exactly the same thing that many other consultants actually give them. So you need to be able to show that you understand the concept.
Yep.
You have a different angle considering your experience, exposure, and your background.
Yep.
So we had, I think, 2 initiatives. One was we need to have a capability inside our booth
Yes.
to be able to have a conversation with people.
Yeah.
And imagine that you're going to go to the technology conferences, system engineering, marketing, it doesn't really matter. All of the people are going to talk about what product or services they have.
Yes.
Because they want to sell those product services.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when people come to the conference, they are not coming to buy anything. They're just coming to actually understand the environment. They want to understand who is who in the market.
Yes.
What type of capability or services you have.
Yep.
And most of them, there's maybe a portion of them maybe are ready to actually buy it in buying mode.
Yeah.
But majority of them at the moment in research mode and discovery mode. Yep.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So if you try to sell a product and service, you straight away you become irrelevant.
Yeah. Not just irrelevant. I think you become annoying.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you try to continuously exchange the business card and then all sorts of things that you go into your mind.
Yeah. But
So
it's
we said that
interesting.
we need.
It's interesting you say, okay, so the people who are coming, they're in research and discovery mode, not buying mode. But actually, so they're looking for more, they're looking for a conversation.
Correct. Yep.
Because as well as finding out about you need to demonstrate that you can find out about them. So you're not in kind of broadcast mode. You're not trying to push stuff at them. You're trying to get them to have a conversation with you.
Correct. Yep.
Mm.
And the main reason for that conversation created trust.
Yes.
And
Yes.
once the trust is there, they recognize that there might be a shared value. And if there's a shared value, then there's the opportunity to actually work together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had my marketing coach, and they actually greatly help us to actually understand this journey and the steps moving forward. Yep.
Yep.
So we said that it's important to actually go to the discovery journey and understand what are the key challenges, problems that at the moment they're dealing with. Again, so we learned from this deck, and we said that it would be really good to ask some questions. Yep.
Yeah. So I think the point this is now, was it around about this point that you come onto the Slack channel for Pip decks?
Yes, correct.
If I remember
yes,
rightly, because it's a few months ago now. You
yeah.
come on the Slack channel and you said, we're going to this conference.
Yep.
We want to be different. We don't want it just to be the same as everyone else. Anybody got any ideas? Was
Sure,
it
yep.
was pretty much the okay. And I think my reply was, I know nothing about designing conference stands, but why don't you try this? And it was something like, why don't you treat it like a story?
Yep, correct. Yep.
And the first thing you need to do is get someone's attention. And the second thing you do with a really good storyteller is you have a conversation. You have a list. It
Correct,
becomes
yep.
a listening thing. So I think that was the kind of the start point of our conversation, wasn't it?
Correct. Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
And if I remember rightly, I think there was one. I think we talked about the story hook.
Yes, correct. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So we talked about story hook because this card is basically about, okay, you know what your story is. Okay, so you know what you do, and you know where you add value to your customer. So you know what the story is. But this card is about, okay, how do you even open? What's your headline on an article? What's the first thing you say when you talk to somebody? What's the words you put on the screen? what's the catch line of the email. Yeah, and that's your hook that gets them into gets them to pay attention. So I think
Right.
we looked at story hook and looked at story hooks and questions and this kind of thing as being a really good story hook. So that was I think where we started. So where did you go? Where did you go from there?
Oh, perfect. So we get the team together. I think 5 of us sit around the table in our main dining area.
Yep.
And we said that we need to design something. So we pretty much opened the whole of the pack. Yep. I think we opened the whole of the pack, put it on the table. We said like how we need to be able to actually work through this. And keep in mind, normally, and the main difference is the pack and the conference is we maybe need to have maybe a 30-second interaction with the person. Even short, because this is not a workshop that you can actually go to the whole instruction at the moment inside storytelling. You got
Yes.
short amount of time that you need to be able to attract people. Yep. To be
Yep.
able to have a conversation.
And that
So we
30
said that,
seconds, and you want that 30 seconds, you want that to be just so typical of how you
correct,
work that they're feeling at the end of the 30 seconds, I want more.
correct. Yep.
Yep. And at the end of the 30 seconds, they've got some sort of sense of, okay, this is what Alex is like. This is what Alex is like to work with. Yeah, okay. So that's good.
And then we said that, okay, as much as we want to learn about them, we want to they learn about us. So this is a two-way journey. It's not just one-way journey.
Yeah. So it's back to that thing. It's back to that thing of you needed to have a conversation, not just to be broadcasting information at
correct,
people.
yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep, correct. And the main reason for that is not everyone is your customer. Yep. I think that's quite critical to understand that.
Yep.
Yep. So we go to we said that okay, we need to be simple. So we need to choose, we need to design a range of different cards given the journey that we have from the deck. And I'll show you, I think I've got lots of different cards in here. I'm going to show you an example.
So
we design.
Just so people are aware, so you've spread the storyteller tactics cards out across the table.
Correct.
And
Yep.
what you've done, what I think was really interesting is what you've done is you've made a kind of leap from, hey, we're enjoying using storyteller tactics, like this idea of laying cards out. This is a really interactive process for us. We want to give people at the conference a little taste of a similar kind of interaction.
Correct. Yep.
So we're going to make our own, we're not going to give them storyteller tactics because we're not a storytelling company. Right. But what we're going to do is give them a kind of card experience. Was that yeah, okay. So can you show us the kind of cards you came up with?
So anyway, we said that okay, we need to think about what are the key words that we want to use inside this card. Yep. What are the research journey going to look like? And considering the expertise we have started our research journey. We go to the last couple of years presentation in the conference, and we identified what are the key pain points or discussions at the moment. So we identify the keywords.
Yes. So what sort of words were you identifying at this point, just so people know?
Right, so I'll show you. So
okay,
one is value. So one is value.
Yep.
The other one is, for example, cybersecurity.
Okay.
The other one is climate change. The other one is integrations. I think the list can actually go on. Yep. And we design, I think our research end up with the 80 different cards.
Okay.
And this card has been split in 8 decks. And each deck we got 10 cards. And the card is two-sided. One is a single word in here. And behind the card there's one key message.
Okay. Right.
And we use a general color coding that we had inside the story decking cards. And we pretty much designed this. And the reason behind this. So we said that if you actually start having interact with people, you suddenly cannot throw 80 cards on the table. It's too much. So we said that we need to.
It's exactly the same with storyteller tactics. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely, yeah. So we need to break this one in a small chunk. And we said that we're going to play a game. And the intent from the game is to understand how they think and how they react.
Yes.
So I think the first they can start, for example, with the color of purple. They give them 10 cards and we ask them, go through the 10 card and identify just one card which resonates with you the most. Yep.
Okay.
And the logic behind it is when you go into the investment decision making, your funding is limited. So you
Yeah.
need to be really focused, really sharp on what you want.
Yep.
And by end of the activity, they maybe end up with the 8 different cards. Yep.
Okay.
From each of the decks.
Right. Right.
And the color coding actually help them to go to the journey. Yep. They start from big picture thinking and come to the quiet, laser focus, specific pain point that maybe have.
Right.
And one actually go to the journey. At the end of the day, we're going to ask them to actually rank these one together. Yep.
Wow.
So during the ranking and during the selections, we ask them, look to the card. So they may look to this side of the card, and they go look to the back side of the card, and there's a definition here. And I'm like, oh, this definition is not right. So we produce a range of other deck of cards, which is blank. And we ask them to write the definition they want, which resonate with them behind this deck. Yep.
Right. So if they couldn't find, so you give them a framework. If they
Correct.
couldn't find exactly what they wanted, they could write their own.
Correct. They could, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Alex, you want to share something on your screen? What have you
I'll
got?
quickly gonna share my screen. So
Okay, brilliant.
This is how the card at the moment look like. So pretty much you can rank this one to the highest and smallest. Yep.
So okay, so this is your so this is right. So this is your color coding right down to
these are the range
very
of
specific things. Okay.
Yes, correct. Yep.
And then each person who came and did this with you, you got their details and they got their.
You got to exchange the details and then you can have a conversation moving.
Yep.
And the other important aspect is having the whiteboard in here to be able to have conversation is quite fruitful. Yep.
Yep, I think so. I think the whiteboard I think was really interesting. Right, there you go.
Correct.
There's a potential customer, and your colleague there is solving his problem in front of him.
Correct. Yes, and I think it's fair to say that we are the only exhibitor inside the conference that we had a whiteboard. The rest, no one actually did the whiteboard. And
okay,
that by itself was differentiating.
And I'm going to make a little prediction here. I bet at the end of that conversation, lots of customers took a photograph of the whiteboard.
Absolutely, they did. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, of course they did, because it's like the IKEA effect with the wardrobe. Yeah, you've just helped them build their own wardrobe. Now they're really invested in your way of working, so much so they're going to take a photograph and they're going to go away and remember that photograph.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're going to remember the conversation with you and your colleague as being a really productive conversation.
Correct, certainly. And keep in mind, being able to define a complex concept of artificial intelligence in a whiteboard in a piece of 5-10 minutes quite fruitful. Yep.
But I'll tell you, look, just go back to that slide again with your colleague. Sorry, go back to the slide with the whiteboard.
Yep.
So remember what we were saying before in the conversation about show and tell. Yep. The difference between using a whiteboard and using PowerPoint is our attention is fixed at the tip of her pen. Yep. So what she's talking about there with F2 and F3 and we are absolutely fixed at that point of, because she's showing us and telling us something at the same time. And at any moment, depending on the conversation with the customer, at any moment she could go, oh, actually, well, over here, and she can draw another thing, or she can underline something, or she can put a circle around something. So in terms of keeping that guy's attention fixed, she's completely in control of his attention.
Absolutely.
And therefore, he's not getting bored. And because I think the worst thing you can do to a potential customer is bore them. Nobody likes being bored.
Yeah, and no one want to get educated, get teach. Everyone had a problem and they want to explore and bounce idea about, okay, how do you see this problem? Yep.
Yeah.
So it's about, it's a two-way conversation. It's not a one-way conversation. Yep.
Yeah, it's really
because as soon as you bring your brochure or pamphlet, it's going to be one way. Yep.
Yeah,
the first question is what service you're offering.
Yeah.
And if your offering is not relevant, you're out of conversation. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely right. And also, when you've written down a pamphlet, it's like, okay, it's important, so a pamphlet's useful, but it's like you've done all your thinking and you put it in the pamphlet. So now,
Correct.
now you're not thinking anymore. You're just handing out
Correct.
the pamphlet. Whereas your colleague here, she's doing some thinking right now,
Yep.
and she's doing thinking in front of me.
Correct. Yep. But
Interesting.
as you said, this is a high risk environment because you need
Mm,
to be able to think on your feet. You know
yep.
your subject, and you're able to say like, I understand, I can add value, or even consider
Yep.
no, I can't add value here. Yep.
Well, this again is why I talked about that. The card, the card. Trust me, I'm an expert in the Storyteller Tactics deck. You're taking a risk here.
Yep.
Yeah, by going, okay, I'm doing the right thing here. There's a risk of this could go wrong. Well, okay, that's how you build up trust. Hmm, interesting.
Certainly. Yep. Yep. And these are the couple of photos of other people actually putting deck together. Yep, as part of the
Yes,
game.
yes,
And
and you can see on the in the background, you can see all the other kind of people doing the standard the standard
correct.
approach in a booth, which is have a banner and a pot plant and
Mm,
and some brochures,
yep. Correct. Yep.
and everyone just walks past.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's and I think the other aspect that we design it like this. I think maybe
Hmm.
you can see
Oh,
this
so you
deck.
got some. Oh, so you went for car.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you.
And the
Okay.
reason for that is this is the familiar icon that
Yes.
as
Yes.
soon as
Yes.
people see this, the idea of game come to your mind.
Well, also,
And then you could see this because, this talking about the game or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also the very good idea. The other thing as well that's interesting is by bringing in the dice and
Yep.
the playing cards, you're introducing play, but you're also introducing the idea of chaos.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's a bit of randomness here.
Mm,
In other words, we are so good at our we are so good at our approach, right? Delanta, we're so good at doing this, we can handle even the randomness of dice. Doesn't matter. We will just play the game because
correct.
we know what we're doing. Okay, very good. But yes, it does look. It looks playful, and it's again,
Absolutely.
it's not what we expect. Therefore, it's a hook.
Correct. Yep. And to be
Mm.
honest, inside an infrastructure investment conference, no one
Yes.
thinking about having the game. But game is a fun item, and everyone would love to have a fun, have a play. Yep.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Again,
And
it's
I
a
think we need to try harder not to be boring,
yep,
not to be like everyone else, and
yep,
think about okay, how we can add value in here.
yeah, yeah. So what I would say, if we were just so to summarize for people watching, so I think possibly the kind of the three most useful cards I would say if other people were wanting to do this, to do something like you've done. The three most useful cards, I think, well, first of all, the audience profile. So you've talked again and again and again about how important it is to understand what people are doing in the conference. Yeah. So think about your audience, put your audience first, put yourself in your audience's shoes. That's number one. The second thing in that process is okay, the story hooks. We've got to get their attention. Yes.
Yep.
We've got to get them to pay attention by being unexpected, by being playful. Yeah, we've got to do that. And I guess there's an element here, of order and chaos, as in, look, the cards invite a bit of chaos, the dice invites a bit of chaos, and we'll then sort your chaos out. And then I
Correct.
think
Yep.
finally, the thing that's really been, so impressive about this is the show and tell, is that your way of doing this gets people's attention fixed where you want it to be. And I think I would say those are the four out of all of this conversation we've had so far. Those are the four cards that are the most useful takeaway for anybody watching.
Correct. And also, I think I'm not sure which deck it was, but you have a deck called the customer journey or something like this. Yep.
That I think is in workshop tactics.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yep, yep,
And I think when you try to design a workshop or a conference experience,
yes,
it would be quite important to actually map the customer journey. Yep.
yeah,
What
yeah,
actually look like when they walk to the conference?
yes.
Because
But
that's gonna give you insight how you
yep,
need to be able to design your booth, how you can convey your message,
yep,
what's your strategy to be able to communicate those things moving forward. Yep.
yeah.
So
I think you're right. And also very early on, you said, we know they're not here to buy.
Correct. Yep.
So they're not at the end of the customer journey, the
Mm,
marketing funnel, whatever it is.
yep.
They're at the research and discovery stage. Okay. Well, let's meet them there.
Correct. Yep.
Have you got any more photographs of people at the conference just to see the
I think I've got this. Yeah, I think this could be an example of the
yeah.
brief that we provided. I think we're talking about what's our approach. Yep.
Yes, yes,
Who
yes.
was that person
Oh,
attended?
so
So
okay, so
this is
that's
their car.
right. So that was what you then sent to people,
Yes, correct. Yes.
a
Yep.
personalized response
Yes.
based on the game they'd played with you. They
Correct. Yep.
then got this one pager that you wrote for them, right?
Correct. Yeah. And we
Brilliant.
talk about what's the next step, how they could see it.
Yeah.
And if they see the value, they could
Yes.
connect with us. If they don't,
Yeah.
I think the whole process stopped there. Yep.
Yes. Good. Well, if they don't see the value by that point, then they're not the right customer for you.
Correct. Absolutely. And I think it's important for us to recognize that that's the
Mm.
case. Yep.
Yeah. 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 Well, listen, if you'll never sell to 100% of customers ever.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Yep.
You know, even Coca-Cola has people who don't like Coca-Cola.
Certainly. Yes. Correct.
So what's really interesting, I mean, obviously, you realize this as you're doing it, but what's really interesting from the point of view of the selling process, which you are still,
Yep.
is you're getting them to describe their problem in detail.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
And then so what I think is really interesting, there's a card in the Storyteller Tactics. So I don't know whether you carried on to do this as you're having those conversations, but there's a card in the deck called Simple Sales Stories.
Yep.
Yep. And the simplest, easiest selling story is, you've got a problem. Someone like you, we sorted that problem, the same problem. We solved
Correct.
that problem for them. So in other words, like we've already solved a problem for someone like you is a really, for example, over here, this guy here, we solved his problem. Okay, that's a brilliant, simple story to sell, but it's really effective if you've listened, or in your case, you've got them to write down their problem. And then you go, oh, okay, well, yeah, we've done that already. So it's very effective, very effective. So you've actually got them writing down
Correct. Yes.
their
Yep.
problem that you can then go, oh, okay, well, we've solved one like that.
Correct.
Okay,
And I
so
think
so typically when you were doing this, how long? So you said you designed it so that people could start the interaction in just 30 seconds.
correct. Yep.
But once people started, how long were they actually playing this game with you? Often,
They
how
might
long?
be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because as you start the journey, the conversation is suddenly going to open up. Yep. Suddenly you're going to pause the game. Because, I think the definition that you write in here is relevant. Or they're
Yes.
going to say that, I think the definition is not relevant. You need to use this definition instead of it. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And and one of the key aspects of the game is just adding value to their journey, because they could understand the problem much better. And we could get an insight about what sort of challenges at the moment they have and
Yes.
how they think. What's the thought process at the moment?
Yep. Yep. So what I think is interesting here. So just from the point of view of other viewers watching this talk. So there's two cards. There's two cards in play from Storyteller Tactics. First one we talked about is story hooks. Is getting people's attention. And there are lots of options for story hooks on the back of the card, but the two I think you've gone with are, well, first of all, you're asking a question, right? So secondly, actually, there's three story hooks. First thing is you're asking people questions. Second thing is you're doing something unexpected, right? So if you're in a conference with 100 people in booths, and 99 of them are pumping out video and having big glossy banners and giving away free electronic stuff and all that kind of thing, right? And they come around the corner and there's you standing there with a pack of cards like a magician.
Yep.
Right. Well, straight away you are unexpected. And so,
absolutely, yes.
okay,
Yep,
so that's really powerful. But then the third story hook I think you're using here is you're packaging up bits of knowledge. So one of the story hooks is your expertise made simple. And those cards that you've created with one word on them is your expert knowledge, yeah, in a little pack of cards. A great thing about pack of cards, as you know from Storyteller Tactics, is someone says, look, I've got here, try these 10. Right, try these 10 cards, flick through those. Oh, okay. So all of your knowledge, all of Alex's brain is now in those 10 cards. And I can go through and go, oh, well, it's yeah,
Yep.
okay. So that's really, I think that's really powerful, really, really powerful demonstration that here's someone who knows what he's talking about.
Correct.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
but then I think what is also interesting is, so you start out with a kind of story hook. It's how you then, can you go from hooking them in, at what point do you actually go, right, I can sell here now? You describe their problem to them.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And do you offer a solution at that point?
No, at this stage, we pretty much, and the main reason for that is it takes time to land. So we
Yeah.
are not selling a widget. Yep. And we
Yep.
are not rushing the sale process. We want to ensure that the buyer understands where they want to go through. Yep.
That's a good idea.
So hence, once we actually write the brief, we send the brief to them and say, have a read through the brief. It's just 1-page document. Really simple. Yep.
Yep.
And they have time to reflect, think about it, and they could back to us, or they could keep this one in the back of their mind. Yep.
Yep.
So I think in total, and we made lots of interesting conversation. So I think in total, we got 80 different cards in here.
Right.
And I think it's really interesting method to be able to have a conversation. Yep. Which is quite different to the normal way that you have a conversation when you go to the conference.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And the investment for this, I remember, was I think we spent $150 for the printing, designing everything end to end, and we go to the conference quite fruitful. The second things I want to share with you is we had a presentation as well. Yep.
Okay.
We had one of the papers talking about a concept of integrated management system using artificial intelligence. Yep.
Yes.
Again, the whole concept is new. Yep. And it takes a lot of time for people to understand, build the trust, and recognize what it actually would look like.
Yes.
And every time we go to the conference, you see a lot of people bring their presentation up, talking about the same old story of all the bullet points and then all the technical jargon.
Yes.
Said that it needs to be different. Again, as we read from Storytelling Tactics, we said that we need to tell a story. Yep.
Yes.
And in order to tell a story, you need to be able to make an impact really simply, really quickly. So we had our initial conversation start with a 3-minute executive pitch, and we start with a story.
Yes.
So we design a range of different jars. So a jar like this. Yep. So we buy 3 of these jars.
Yes.
And as you can see, there is a sign or symbol on top of these jars. One is rectangular, the other one is like this, and the other this.
Yep.
And he said that we as a human, or as we go through organization, we are like a human. We are inside these jars.
Yes.
And each of the people inside this jar talking about different language. Yep. So
Yep.
I would talk with the language of storytelling. And my partner talk about with the language of asset management. Or the other person may talk about a different language of risk. Yep.
Yes.
And the challenge that we have is we don't understand the language of each other.
Yes.
We talk different terms. Yep.
Yes.
And when you cannot connect with people, you are not able to have a business together. Yep. And hence you go into the long-ended meeting trying to figure out what you need to do. Yep. So we said that artificial intelligence is a new capability that could solve a range of problems. Yep.
Yes.
We believe that this tool can add lots of value.
Yes.
But we as a human being, we need to tell them what we want. So this color is aligned with the color of each jar.
And the shape's the same, yes.
Yes. And as we know, we as a human is the most smartest human at the moment in the world. Yep. At least in the planet.
Well, you hope so.
So we need to be able to have a control over the artificial intelligence, not the other way around.
Yep.
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 And this is pretty much our pitch, 3 minutes, and absolutely everyone inside the conference love it, take lots of photos, have lots of conversation. And then after that, you had 15 minutes to present our papers,
yes,
talk about the technical landscape, those type of things. Yep.
Yes.
after the conference, we received lots of feedback. And one of the main feedback that we received was, you guys told really interesting story. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
It wasn't about artificial intelligence. It wasn't about humans. It's about how they're going to work together to be able to create things efficiency, faster, quicker. Yep. And I think if you're able to put yourself in the shoes of the people actually coming to the conference, and you think about a person normally attended 3 days conference,
Yes.
and every day maybe 30 or 40 different presentations.
Yes.
So over the 3 days, there's 120 presentations. So imagine that what type of bandwidth you need to be able to digest this level of information. And human being, after I think 2-3 minutes, you're gonna check it out. So
absolutely.
So I think it's really important to think from outside of the box, look from their perspective. I think this is just absolute gold nugget at the moment inside these boxes. Yep.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there's a couple of things that occurred to me that again would be useful for people watching if they've got Storyteller Tactics in their pocket. So one thing you've talked about there is actually in the card about audience profile. So there's a card there about which is really think about your audience, think about where they're at. So not just what problem they've got, but also I think what's really interesting what you're saying. We've touched on this already. Think about what it's like to be the customer coming to the conference. So not the exhibitor. You know what that is. You are the exhibitor. Put yourself in the shoes of the person visiting. And like you said, if they're going to see 30 presentations a day, and every single presentation is man standing with a clicker in front of a screen. Yeah, click, click, click. Right. Well, honestly, it doesn't matter how good your presentation is in terms of the facts you're putting across. Like you said, we've checked out. Right? Our attention is gone. Now, this is where the other card. There's something really interesting you've been doing there with the jars, and I started thinking about the show and tell tactic. Now, in the show and tell card is actually written about, well, my main thinking in that was, okay, when you're using presentation slides, okay, then the show and tell card is useful because what that card says is, look, don't just put 50 words on the screen at once and then start reading them out because your audience is gone ding, 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 ding. We've read them all. And now you're just this boring voice in the background that's talking while we're reading. So that's disaster, absolute disaster in a presentation. So what you do is you put one bit of information on the screen and talk about it, but talk about other things as well. Then you put another bit of information on the screen, and immediately you talk about the new information, and then you can talk more widely around it. And then you do. So you're basically repeating this process of here's something interesting, and then you diverge away from it. Then you go back to something that's interesting, and then you diverge. It's like a washing line of clothes, and you pegging our attention back to the line. So it's about pegging our attention onto the visual side of the show and tell while you're telling us something. But your version's even better than slides because you're using physical props. So if you could show us the jar again, the jar with the So your
There's
budget
3 jars.
3 jars. Okay. So your budget went from £150 on printing cards to 160 pounds for glass jars and little mannequins.
These jars I think in a $2 shop. I
Yep.
think each got $2. These $2,
$2.
these $2, and this
how
$2.
how much was your little human figure? How much was he?
So there is a website called Timo. I think
Right.
there's a Chinese manufacturer. I think we managed to get all of these.
Yes.
I think maybe about 60 or $70. I can't remember how much actually it was.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've got the record at the
So
moment.
it's a pretty, so you've put a bit of thought and effort into it. But what's interesting
absolutely.
is when you hold up a glass jar for us so we can see on the screen, okay, and then you've got the human inside, right?
Yep.
So when you're holding the glass jar and you hold the human and you put the human in the little like the silo, right? And then you've got the other glass jar, and you've got 2 glass jars, and then you've got a robot. You've got something in your hands. Right?
Yep.
So as you were talking to us before, right? The minute you hold something like a prop, right?
Yep.
And then another prop, where's our attention? It's exactly on where you want it to be. It's on the prop, right? So we're not listening to you while reading something else.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. We're not listening to you while looking at something else. You've got us right there. So you've got our attention exactly where you want it to be. And
Yep.
then you bring out the robot, right?
Yep.
And okay,
This one
this
and the
one, yeah,
bigger what?
and the
Yes.
bigger
Yep.
and the bigger human. So, and I couldn't
Yes.
see those because obviously you're on we're talking over a screen. So it's like a little you're acting almost like a little magician. You're bringing things out from being hidden. So this is show and tell done really, really well
Mm.
because you've got our attention exactly where you want it to be
Yep.
using the prop. Using this is why nowadays when I do presentations, as much as I possibly can, I do stuff with a pen. So I'll get a
Correct. Yep.
big like a big fat marker pen,
Mm.
and I'll draw it out on a piece of paper
Yep.
in front of people, because same thing. If I put up a slide, so for example, if I'm teaching people about story arc, and I can say, okay, well, there's this story arc called Rags to Riches, where the arc goes from a bad place to a good place. But it's like that sort of arc. But if I put that on a screen behind me, the minute I put it up, everyone's seen it, and now they're sort of they don't need to pay attention to it anymore. If I get a pen and I say, right, I'm going to draw this story arc for you, and I go, okay, over here on the wall behind me, so I'm going to draw this story arc, and it goes from like here, and it goes to here, okay, and I draw it in front of them, right? Their attention is fixed at the tip of my pen because they're waiting to see what I draw, and that's way more engaging than a really well designed, really polished visual image on a screen. So
Absolutely.
So there's something really interesting. So I think the reaction you got from people of, wow, that was a great presentation, was because you held their attention the whole time. But also, look, I'm not taking this away from you as well. You have a lot of enthusiasm. Yeah. So you're actually you look like you look like you're enjoying yourself when you're doing this, when you're talking about this, which is great. That's also really, really engaging for us. We like to see someone who's enjoying their work. But I think that's a really interesting way of approaching that presentation, to think about okay, what's the show and tell here, and how do I make sure that I'm in control of their attention when I'm speaking. And I think that the way you've done it is a really, really good example.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
so
think it's important to recognize that the focus of presentation is not me, it's the audience that they want to take something from the presentation. If the presenter understand that, then
yeah,
actually understand the layer of the land and actually understand how they can design the presentation in order to audience to get maximum value from that
yep,
20 minutes
yeah,
time. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I think also there's something as well about using, like, for example, I'm talking about using a pen and drawing something out in front of people. You're using props. So there's something about both of those which is a little bit like it's a little bit like watching the circus, watching a man walking on a high wire. Yes, because the guy's balancing on a high wire, and
Yes.
you know that he could fall, and therefore you watch him. And if you're doing something for us with props, in your case, or in my case with a marker pen, you're doing something live in front of us. You could fail. Okay, that's so we're kind of paying attention because so you said before you're taking a bit of a risk with this approach. So with playing a set of cards in your booth, and with playing around with robots at your presentation, you're taking a bit of a risk. But actually, we like people to take a bit of risk because the opposite is really boring. And if everyone is doing the same thing, it gets really boring. And so, a couple of other cards that are kind of relevant, although I don't know if you've sort of thought about these, but in one sense, okay, the Order and Chaos
Yep.
card is really fundamental. It underlies a lot of the stories we do. And what you're doing by having this presentation with a set of cards, right, or a presentation with like, you're introducing a bit of chaos it would be very easy to go to this presentation or to go into your booth at the conference and go, we know exactly what we're doing as a company. We know what we do. All we have to do is get those stupid customers to listen to us.
Mm.
So we're going to just basically tell them exactly what we do. And if they don't like it, that's their problem.
Correct. Yep.
So that's the world of order where you know exactly what you're doing and you just tell people what you do. Okay. But you've decided having a set of cards on the table for customers to play with is a bit of chaos because it could go anywhere.
Good. Yes.
They could throw anything at you. In fact, you've even got a set of blank cards. So for added chaos, that they can give you
Yes.
anything. Yeah, the blank cards. And then what's really clever is you're the guys who can turn the chaos back into order. By the end of the
Correct. Yep.
conversation, you can say to them, well, I think here's what you need. In fact, I'm going to write it down for you and give it to you by email as a little
Yep.
takeaway of here's what we would do if we were you. So you're bringing a bit of chaos. Everyone pays attention. Oh, where's this going to go? Right, and then you turn it back into order. So that's I think so. So listen, I'm I'm guessing by the smile on your face that you really enjoyed the conference.
I think it was positive experience, and I
Yep.
think it was good learning for us that we
Yep.
take a lot of risk.
Yes.
And I think quite interesting to mention that we had a good learning as well. So we created 3 different animations for 3 different products. We
Yep.
hire a small TV and we hire a whiteboard as well.
Yes.
I think no one pay attention to our TV and also pay attention to our an animation. But because we had the opportunity to use a marker on the whiteboard
Yep.
and actually
Yep.
explain really simply what
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
doing, it
Yep.
creates interactions. Yep. And I think interaction is everything because it's going to build the trust. Yep. And I think I know technology at the moment quite advanced, but the more you're able to dial back and make this fun simpler and easier for people to understand and able to build human connections,
Yep.
that's where exactly the upside is.
Yeah.
The more you try to make it complicated, spend a lot of money, time, resources, you're gonna fail. Yep.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I think also I think you were also in that setting. I'll tell you what else I think you were doing. Yeah, I think you were breaking the rules.
Yep.
So the rules, cheats, and rebels card here is about, okay, what are the rules of the game? And in your case, going to a conference, there are rules. The rules are, well, you stand there with a product, you stand there with a well-designed sales area, and you show people videos. Yeah. Those are the kind of the rules of the game. And you've decided right at the beginning, we're not doing that. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to be rebels, and we're going to break those rules. And everyone pays attention when you break the rules, because as it says in this card, if you break the rules, we want to see what happens next, because we want to know, are you going to be rewarded for breaking the rules, in which case you're a rebel, yeah, or are you going to be punished for breaking the rules because you've been cheating?
Yep.
Right, but either way, we're paying attention, and obviously in this case, you've been rewarded in terms of the quality of interaction. So you've had good quality conversations as a result of doing it this way. You've had good positive feedback from people at the conference. Now, I know you said at the beginning that the conference is not really a sales opportunity. It's research and discovery.
Correct. Yep.
So you don't go in there going, well, we want to close 10 deals, and it's a failure if we don't close 10 deals. But I'm curious, and I'm sure other people will be curious too. Has there been an impact in terms of new business?
It was exponential opportunity at the moment ahead of us, which is at the moment we're thinking about which one is the highest priority, which one going to be biggest impact to our value chain. Yep. And we are thinking at the moment that we get partnered with other players to be able to support us to deliver this bunch of work. Yep. And I think it's all going back to that human connection. Can
Mm.
you able to tell a story to make human connection? Yep.
Yes.
And if you're able to do that, and if you are genuine about it, and they see the value, then you are going to have a business as a back of it, as a byproduct of that conversation. Yep. It's
Yeah.
not the other way around. Yep.
Mm.
It's I think when you look into this deck of cards, this one or the
Mm-hmm.
maybe the workshop tactics, I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
I think you show in one of your videos you got a stack of the books at the moment all
Oh
over,
yes. Yeah.
and then you show that okay, all those books at the moment has been condensed in here.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I think there's amazing resource in here in a fraction of money. Yep.
Mm.
And the level of investment is paid I think 10 times. Yep.
Mm.
And if you have time, I'm happy to share another story that we've done
Mm.
for last year for another conference.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Before you do that, let's just one other thing as well. So what people maybe don't realize if they're watching this is, okay, so you get when you get the okay, you get Storyteller Tactics, so you get a box of cards, yes. And as you said, they've been very useful for you. The other thing that you get that people maybe don't appreciate the value of is you get access to this community of other people. So there's a Slack channel. There's about 15,000 customers registered on the Slack channel, and you
Yep.
were one of them. And so you came on the Slack channel and asked this question: what anybody got any ideas? And it wasn't just you didn't just get a reply from me. You got replies from other people as
Yeah.
well
Correct.
who
Yep.
knew nothing about you, but they were willing to just offer that. I mean, how did you find that in terms of when you came on that Slack channel, didn't know what was going to happen, threw a
Yep.
question in there. What was that like for you?
I think as a business owner, you do not want to go out in public and ask questions from your competitor. Yep. So you are looking
Absolutely.
for a safe environment that people are in the same situation as you. They may be a business owner, they might be have some form of business at the moment that have an interest coming to that forum. Yep. And to be honest, the wheel already has been invented many, many years ago. Yep. So if you got a problem, at least there should be one answer, one YouTube video about it, one book has been written about it, those type of things. So the smartest things as a business is you need to save your time, effort, and resources in order to get heads up. So we said that let's go and ask simple question. Come to the search function, maybe search with the conference or event, and let's see what's coming up. If something coming up, you just ask question. Yep.
So you spent $200 on glass jars and pieces of card and had a really, really positive experience.
Absolutely, yep. And keep in mind, we talk about the most advanced capability around artificial intelligence, and then yep, so the
I'll
result
tell
is
you,
fruitful.
I'll tell you what, that's also, listen, back to the last bit of storyteller tactics I'll bring to people's attention. So within story hooks, one of the hooks that I talk about is irony, right? That something is not what you expect. It's ironic. And in a way, it's ironic that you're there talking about artificial intelligence and the highest of high tech, but you're doing it with pieces of card
Yep.
and glass jars and yeah and dummies. So you're talking about something incredibly high tech. Ironically, the best way to talk about high tech is using low tech.
Correct.
That's
Absolutely. Yep.
interesting. So that's
Yep.
a really good hook to get people's attention.
And one of main reasons for that is there is not enough expert of artificial intelligence in the room. You are not able to see 10, 20 different people with PhD in machine learning, large
Mm-hmm.
language models. You can see lots of decision makers that
Yep.
they make decisions simply. Then you need
Yep.
to be able to communicate simply with them to be able to connect with them.
Yes. Yes. I think you're absolutely right. And I think one of the interesting things, there's so many people on the customer community, so many people in the Slack who are subject specialists. They're experts in something like data or software engineering or AI in your case. Um, and they're so focused on their area of expertise that they've forgotten how to talk to people who are not subject experts. And I think that's really, really interesting. And the way to connect with those people, well, one is to tell a story, but even better is to listen. to them and listen to their story and find out what they need.
If you have time, I'm keen to show something else that we
Oh yes,
ran
please,
last
please
year.
do.
Yep.
Yeah, please do.
And I think it could be add value for the people if they want to explore something like this.
Yep.
So last year we had a conference, we had a paper inside the same conference called How to See an Elephant in the Dark Room. Yep. And the concept behind that is starting from, I think I shared this, but can you verify that you can see my screen?
Yep, I can see that, yep.
So imagine that you are managing cities infrastructure investment. The list can actually go on. Yep. And you have 3 different roles. Yep. You have an asset owner. Imagine that it could be government. It could be asset operator. It should be your contractor and mediator, someone who I need to work with the treasury to give investment for a certain project. Yep. And the challenge is these people are struggling to communicate together because they have a needs, they have a perspective, they may not see the whole story.
Yes.
So we said, all right, let's go to the conference and present the concept of how we can see a dark elephant in the room. Yep.
Yes.
So this is how the game has been started. We hide an object called elephant inside that bag.
Yes.
We identified a range of my friends to actually co-support as part of this journey. Yep. And this is how it goes. We give them, we cover their eyes, and we ask, open the bag and identify what's inside the bag.
Yep. Yeah. And so the audience can see this, can't they?
Absolutely. They all could see. The room was full of people.
Yep.
And they're all taking photos, trying to see how the journey goes. And we ask, based on your experience, understanding, you need to be able to identify what's inside this bag.
Yes.
And as you know, different people have different understanding about an elephant. Someone might touch the tails, the head, the feet, the list can actually go on. Yep. And this is actually going around the circle. So everyone trying to explain the elephant from their perspective.
Yes.
And when you try to communicate, you understand the barrier of the communication because you're in a dark room. Yep.
Yeah.
And right now, once they're actually talking, they need to be able to convey the message to this person sitting at the corner. Yep.
Right.
Imagine that this person act as a treasury. Yep.
That
they need to listen to your story, write a business case, and ask for a certain level of funding. Yep.
Yes.
I think that's about it. But
again, the point about this kind of stagecraft, which is what we're talking about here, is again back to show and tell. You put the blindfold on somebody, you give them a prop, you know that the audience's attention is fixed exactly where you want it to be.
Yep.
They're paying attention to exactly what you want them to pay attention to because you're using an object in the room. The whole blindfold thing is really immersive because we and the audience are imagining sitting up there on the stage and imagining, okay, I can see it, but I can see it, but I know that she can't see it. So it's really immersive because it's any kind of storytelling. That's why the card movie time is about getting a movie playing in somebody's head. So any kind of storytelling gets a movie playing in someone's head. And one of the things that is really good is we then step into that person's shoes and see the world like they do. So when you're doing that trick with there's a person on stage wearing a blindfold, we in the audience are imagining being in the blindfold with the benefit of what we can see. We're imagining what that guy is like who can't see. So it's very, very good storytelling because you're totally immersing the audience in someone else's experience. There's a live bit of theater happening in front of them, and they are in the shoes of the guy who can't see. And so that's why that presentation went really, really well. Because you were giving them a little movie, like movie time, but you were putting them into the character who couldn't see. And it's very, very powerful.
And by the end of the game, we gave $50 voucher to each of the participants and thank the contribution. But I think there are 2 key messages in here. One is the focus of the presentation is not Alex or Dolando. The focus is the audience.
Yes. Yes.
And imagine that. I think I spent a lot of time watching the demo of presentation of Steve Jobs when he present Apple. Yep.
Yes.
He designed a show. He designed an
Mm.
experience for people
Mm.
to go to the journey and see what actually this feel like. Yep. Do I
Mm.
really need to buy another iPhone this year?
Yep.
The answer most likely yes. It's because he able to resonate with other people
Yes.
why they need another object. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And again, the customer journey map again is game changer in here. Yep.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
We go to the last year conference, exactly same thing. Lots of people. How we could differentiate our presentation. Yep.
Mm.
So
Mm.
the principle applied in storytelling tactics is not just
Mm.
apply for your presentation, your booth, is any conversation that you have in
Yep.
life. Yep.
Yep.
The
Yep.
principle is universal. Yep. And it's
Mm.
simple to adopt. All is needed. You need to spend pen and paper, start writing really simply. Yep.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we had lots of fear in front of lots of senior people. We take the
Mm.
risk and come up
Mm.
with this game. And the time is quite limited. But if
Mm.
you don't take a risk, you're never gonna know what's your capacity, how they're gonna go. Yep. So it's better to take the risk, and if successful, you can win the reward.
And it sounds like you've reaped the reward. So listen, Alex, we shall wait for you to come back on the Slack channel in 6 months' time and say, guys, we've got another conference. What's your advice this time? But
Sure.
in the meantime, I will say thank you so much for your
A
time
pleasure. Thanks,
today.
man.
Really appreciate it. And I know that a lot of people watching this will have found this a very, very useful conversation. So thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks very much. All the very best to everyone.
Thank you.